Perfect. Thanks, David. We'll just start a bit of a Q&A with Kelly and Sarah from Diageo. I'll probably jump between you a bit, so I'll just let you know which questions aimed at which person. But just to start off with, just maybe some quick intros and just if you can tell us a bit about both of your backgrounds at Diageo. So if I can come to you first, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Fraser. I'm the Technical Manager for Packaging and Automation at Diageo. A bit about my career journey. So my career began in architecture before moving into manufacturing at Diageo. I joined Diageo in 2012 in an operations role. And then in 2014, there was an opportunity for a secondment into engineering, the engineering function within international supply chain and procurement. And that changed my career path. Then I moved into an engineering role permanently when that secondment come to an end, and I retrained as a mechanical engineer where I completed my BEng honours at Heriot-Watt University in 2022 as part of the Graduate Apprenticeship programme in Engineering, Design and Manufacture, while working full-time in my engineering role at Diageo. I've worked closely as part of my development through a number of different functions within our business, so partnering very closely with our brand change, our procurement, finance and operations functions, where I've then had the opportunity to build a really strong end-to-end understanding of packaging and our supply chain and different functions within the business. I now lead the packaging transformation team within global engineering.
Thanks, Kelly. And yeah, probably not where you thought you'd end up, having started out in architecture initially.
No, definitely not, Dan. It was closely linked, but definitely a transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kelly. And Sarah, if I can just ask the same of you.
Yeah, hello, I'm Sarah. I'm a graduate apprentice engineer in Kelly's team, the packaging transformation team. I started working for Diageo in 2022 as a site assurance officer, which followed a very varied career. I'm a trained and qualified textile designer. I was a social care worker. I've been a firefighter control. As soon as I started working for Diageo, I felt like I'd found a place where I could really be myself and where I was able to sort of be supported to develop and grow in whichever area that I wanted to within the business. Site assurance was a great introduction. I had physical exposure to our enormous leave-in packaging site. I was involved in security, auditing, assurance and emergency procedures. I walked for miles around the site every day and I really got a good understanding of the scale of our operations.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and similar to Kelly, both very good examples of upskilling and reskilling there in terms of not necessarily having come from that kind of engineering background initially, and utilizing the graduate apprenticeship to then end up in those kind of positions, which yeah is really good to hear. Sticking with you, Sarah, and I will come back to you on this as well, Kelly, as you both, or Kelly, you've been through the graduate apprenticeship and you're currently going through it, Sarah. What was your initial motivation, Sarah, to kind of apply for the graduate apprenticeship?
Okay, so while working for site assurance, I was tasked with looking into replacing our front doors on site, our new main entrance doors for 3 of our buildings, and I took this to our Dragon's Den process to secure funding, and I was delighted when I successfully secured the funding for the project. But I was so disappointed when I had to hand it over to engineering and my involvement ended. It showed me that I needed more than what I was getting from my role, and I really wanted to be involved in projects that made a difference to the site and to our company. My view into Diageo engineering was then extended because I was tasked with doing an audit on some of Global Engineering's documentation, and it gave me the chance to have a chat with Kelly and hear a bit about her role and sort of global engineering processes. And that really inspired me. I had never been interested in STEM subjects, and I just didn't think I was capable of actually understanding the topics that were within the engineering discipline. So I challenged that thought, and I decided to apply to the Open University initially to do a STEM access course. And I found that not only was I capable of it, I absolutely loved it. And I had to try and find a way to move career essentially from site assurance into engineering. And with that new sort of confidence and with the backing of my family, I applied for this role.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Especially, I think we hear that so often that you maybe didn't find those subjects, or that you kind of gravitated toward those subjects maybe at school or in kind of traditional education, but actually seeing it in that workplace environment and almost kind of getting the bug for it by doing it, as opposed to just learning about it, and then you can sort of reverse engineer that into then, like you say, the Open University course and the GA program as well.
Absolutely.
And Kelly, if I can ask the same as of you.
Yeah, Dan, so thanks. So for me, why did I choose a graduate apprenticeship? So again, I wanted to progress as a mechanical engineer without stepping away from my full-time role that within the engineering environment, and the graduate apprenticeship allowed me to do that. It allowed me to continue working while studying and learning to work towards that degree. It allowed me to earn the degree while applying the learning directly into real engineering projects, and it supported me in my development journey through an accelerated programme, building my confidence, that technical capability. And I suppose it was a bit of a change coming from an architect background into an operations environment, and this opportunity becoming available from our HR as part of the pilot at the time. So graduate apprentices were very new and unique. We were starting out on that journey, and I was one of the first from Diageo at the time who had the opportunity to come here. So for me, it was progressing as the mechanical engineer, getting that qualification to support.
Yeah, and it sounds like one of the key things there, Kelly, would have been that opportunity to not have to kind of halt your career progression at the same time, because I suppose without the graduate apprenticeships, your options would have been either full-time or part-time study, which then I suppose impacts on your ability to either continue working at Diageo or continue progressing at the same rate.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. It would have meant I would have had to step away from the full-time employment to become a full-time undergraduate on a programme. So being able to work while learning and studying at the same time was a massive benefit for me.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kelly. And then sticking with you, Kelly, because I suppose this is maybe where your experiences slightly diverge, in that Kelly, yourself and a few others across Heriot-Watt are quite kind of uniquely placed in that we have some other people like yourself who've done the graduate apprenticeship and now manage and are involved in the graduate apprenticeship scheme within their own employers. So from Diageo's perspective then, with your kind of employer hat on, what are the key drivers and sort of reasons for the business utilising graduate apprenticeships, whether that's to recruit people or for someone like Sarah who was kind of already within the business?
Yeah, so for us, for Diageo, graduate apprentices let us grow talent from the ground up. So a strong grassroots talent pipeline. Apprentices learn the theory as well as the Diageo way of working, both in parallel. So it's not a sequential step, and it really strengthens our talent pipeline. It brings that fresh thinking. It supports our long-term retention. So going back to what you said earlier, Dan, that retention piece is really important for us. When you bring them in early, you take them on the journey as part of the degree programme with the Diageo way of working. We see that there's a benefit in holding on to people longer term when they've been part of that 4-year programme and are integrated into the function.
And I suppose sticking with that theme then, from more of a kind of program content and academic perspective, what was it about the engineering, design and manufacture program that really sort of lends itself to the business?
So going back to both what yourself and Odin said, that blended model really works. So the 20% at university, the 1 day a week day release, the 80% in the workplace. So you're learning the theory, you're bringing it back into a real life environment where the apprentices are applying that theory straight into live packaging and automation projects for me and my team, as well as the business. It's supporting their development in a fast-paced, relevant and valuable attribute that they're bringing from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on what you've just described there, then what benefits have you seen the apprentices bring to the business through the programme?
Yeah, so genuinely they develop a lot quicker. They're bringing that fresh ideas. There's a different level of confidence, the skills and the techniques that they're learning from the courses that they're attending at university as part of the learning outcomes. They're bringing all of that back into the workplace. Equally, they're taking ownership early on. Their curiosity lifts that team culture. They're asking lots of questions, and genuinely, I see I've got two apprentices in second year and Sarah in first year, and all three of them are already starting to become well-rounded engineers through that process, and I think that they will become well-rounded engineers much faster than going through that traditional route. Dan.
But that's a particularly really interesting point, Kelly, because we had an event yesterday and we were talking about this with the attendees, in that I think sometimes there's a perception in industry that it's going to take 4 years before the apprentices are productive for the business. But actually what you're saying is almost kind of the reverse, that you're getting someone in that can contribute, to your mind, quicker than if you were to recruit a traditional graduate who just had the kind of academic experience up to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So like coming in and doing that blended approach. So Sarah here on the call is already working on live projects. She's shadowing, she's leading, she's getting that support. Someone who comes after they've done their degree, they're having to learn all of the Diageo ways of working on 4 years and day one if they then land in a role immediately after. Having the role set up from day one as a graduate apprentice gives them that opportunity to be learning and earning and becoming part of the integral Diageo team and ways of working, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. And then last thing on that particular thread then, in terms of new hires versus upskilling, are there kind of differences that you notice in terms of the kind of benefits that they're bringing and the benefits to the business?
Absolutely. So for us, I think the capability that they bring on day one is incredible. They're developing fast. As I've said, they're learning on real projects. They're bringing the new ideas, the fresh thinking, the confidence. And I think the piece that they're, so going back to, apologies because I went off piece a little bit, right? So yes, they're both important, but they're different. They're bringing that fresh thinking, the challenge on how we do things. The upskilling the employees brings that deep knowledge of the site and our processes, and together we're creating that balance of experience and the new ideas. So that's the bit for us.
Yeah, kind of different approaches, but benefits to each, and sort of different considerations, I suppose, in terms of who's able to upskill and sort of how you go about that recruitment piece. Okay, Sarah, to come back to you, in terms of your kind of current role and sort of balancing the work side of things and the academic side of things, how does that work for yourself?
So my current role is Graduate Apprentice Engineer within the Packaging Transformation team. Our work starts at the front end of projects. We provide budgets to project engineers and to site, and to highlight any sort of risks and opportunities that we can see. So far, I've mostly been involved in brand change and innovation projects, and I'm just really enjoying them. I find balancing the work and study challenging, but so rewarding. I am a mum to 2 little boys as well, so I am very, very used to juggling my priorities. So yeah, make it work, but it's definitely challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on that theme then, and Kelly having been through the graduate apprenticeship will really help with this as well. But what support and encouragement do you get from Diageo in order to kind of go through the graduate apprenticeship scheme?
Okay, I have had a huge amount of support from Diageo in quite a few different ways. Particularly Kelly and my work-based mentor Michael have been really supportive. I feel like they really want me to do well, and that sort of pushes me to do my best and to really try my hardest at everything. I've also got the bonus that I've got the 2 GAs in the year ahead of me who have just become quite good friends, and they're really supportive, and it's a nice environment to work in. Diageo and Kelly in particular are also really supportive and with flexibility. And it allows me to sort of do my best in this role, but without sacrificing my family commitments or taking more time than is necessary for it. My biggest driving force in life is to show my children what you can do with hard work. So it is really, really, it's important to me to have that flexibility and the support to enable me to do that for them.
Yeah, that's a great message there, Sarah. And I think as well to touch on what you said about having the other apprentices there as support, and that's something that we see kind of across all employers, is where you've got that cohort set up, or even if it's just one other individual going through the same process, someone that kind of lives and breathes that apprenticeship program with you and understands the sort of nuances to it, and equally how you take that back into the business as well. That's something that we're aware can really be a great help to any given apprentice. And then Kelly, I suppose from the employer side then on that, in terms of supporting your apprentices, what kind of practices or structures would you say an employer would need to have in place in order to best support their apprentices?
Yeah, so there are a few key essentials, Dan, and the most important one is that strong mentorship. So the work-based mentor and the line manager, that piece is fundamental and the foundation to supporting the GA programme. We need to make sure that there are clear pathways to support the development of the graduate apprentice, as well as a structured exposure. So we're trying to develop them, we're trying to show them what else is available, the partnership and collaboration across the different functions within the business. You need to provide that structured exposure to support their confidence building, their development. You need to provide them with real meaningful work. So the work-based learning activities that we tie to the university curriculum to allow them to achieve their learning outcomes, they need to understand why they're applying the theory, the purpose of what they're learning at university, and how that then relates to the project. So you need to be able to give them work that is meaningful, that builds that connection. The next point is the study time. So as much as you have got 20% at university and we are giving them work-based projects to achieve the learning outcome, there is also lots of additional tasks that need to be done, homework, exercises and activities, and we need to be able to give them protected time to allow them to work through that study material, work through the additional homework activities that they get, and genuinely see that there is a benefit of doing that. We need to make sure that we're providing a culture where they can openly ask questions that allow them to be curious and encourage that, because that's genuinely where the learning and the growth comes from, is the understanding.
Yes, it sounds like it's a combination of giving them that support and, like you say, that kind of work type assignments that can give them that real purpose and allow them to make an impact, but equally understanding that need for flexibility, and yeah, being able to kind of help them through that balancing act, I suppose, between the university, like you say, with the protected time, but equally them being in a productive role that has a real business impact.
Yeah, absolutely. When all of these things are in place, the genuine development and inspiration that you see coming through from the apprentices, they really thrive in that environment when there's the balance that's created.
Definitely. Right, I'm just conscious of time and leaving enough time for audience questions, but I'll just finish with a couple of questions here. On the theme then, Sarah, like we were discussing around that kind of impactful work and being a kind of productive member of the business, how do you find you're able to apply your learning in the workplace, and do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, so I often find ways to apply my learning in the workplace, and it's been really useful for my work-based learning projects. I find the GA way of learning is really effective for me. I don't always feel like the theory clicks as I'm learning it in university, but when I put it into context at work, it often does click. The best example that I have at the moment is my first year project. So I needed to design, build and test a component demonstrating my theory learning at university. I designed and made my own spherical bottle top using an existing bottle cork and a wooden overclosure, which I shaped on a wood turning lathe. I was able to apply my learning by exploring the tests that Diageo carries out on this type of component, and I was able to have my design tested in Diageo labs, and then I carried out my own testing in the university as well. So I am definitely able to apply it at work.
Thanks, Sarah. And that's a good example of it's not just something that you're doing in isolation to evidence those work-based learning requirements. It's actually something that brings real kind of benefit to the business and impact within your day-to-day kind of working role.
Yeah.
Right, last couple of questions for me then before we wrap up. Sarah, just to stick with you, how would you sum up your GA experience so far, and how do you think it will kind of help your career moving forward?
The GA experience has been genuinely life-changing for me. It's completely changed how I see myself. The decision to challenge myself at a stage in life where I had already tried so many different careers was something that I previously thought just was out of my reach, has given me such a huge confidence boost. I am happier at work than I have ever been, with really a feeling that there are no limits on where I can go and what I can do. The GA has given me so much confidence just to look for further opportunities and to progress. And yeah, I really see a good path for myself now.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. And I don't think there's really anything to add to that, is there? That's really resoundingly positive. And on that theme, I'll just stick with you, Sarah, and then I'll go to you, Kelly, because it's the same question, but just from different perspectives. So from an employee's perspective, Sarah, what advice would you give to someone that's thinking about undertaking the graduate apprenticeship?
I would say just don't doubt yourself. Be ready to work hard and commit to your learning and give it your all. The more that you put in, the more you get out. And I just wish that I'd done it sooner. That's all.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And then same to you, Kelly, but from an employer's perspective?
Yeah, so the advice that I would give is you need to start with a clear path and make sure that there's good support in place from a manager and mentor perspective. There's real long-term investment. You need to see that that's an opportunity and it's going to support your business unit, your business overall. You need to give the apprentices purpose. You need to give them meaningful work and the opportunity for exposure, to have that voice, to have the seat at the table, to feel valued. And you need to equip the managers and the mentors with the appropriate tools to enable them to support the graduate apprentice in the workplace. If we do all of that, the return is huge in capability and the innovation and the engagement and the culture that it builds.
Perfect. Well, thank you both very much, Kelly, Sarah. That was brilliant insight to get, especially having both perspectives from each of you there, someone currently going through the graduate apprenticeship and someone that's been through it and is involved in kind of managing the graduate apprenticeship scheme at their employer. David, are we over to any further questions now at this point
I guess
for Kelly and Sarah?
Yep, absolutely. And just to echo your point there, Kelly, Sarah, that was some wonderful insight there from both perspectives. That was really, really useful. So thanks again for your time today for supporting the event.